Hello everyone, my name is Ernesto and I'm going to answer some questions about social linguistics. Social linguistics is directly linked to the school of functionalism. Himes thought that language implies an inclusion of social-cultural aspects in both language learning and in the nature of the language. He said or he argued that people don't not only know how to perform well-structured sentences, they also know when to use them, where to use them, and with whom use those sentences. In other words, they also know the context when they are forming those sentences. Yes, I think social linguistics is useful to explain the linguistic changes throughout history because social linguistics studies the relationship between the society and the language spoken by that society. So, for example, in the era of the Old English, if we study the relationship between the society of the Germanic tribes that moved into the British Isles and the language that was spoken, we're gonna find, for example, some new terms that were added to the language and that we still use today. For example, the words man, woman, drink, eat, etc. Or afterwards, if we study the relationship between the society of the Norman French invaders that came into the British Isles in the year 1066 and ruled the British Isles, we are gonna find some new terms also that were the beginning of the Middle English. Some of these terms are the words army, court, faith, prison, and tats. Yes, to some extent we can use social linguistics to do diachronic research because linguists tried in the past tried to reconstruct the languages based on the similarities that were found to exist between languages thought to be related historically to those dead languages. So, for example, in this case, if we go back once again to the to the era of the Middle English, and we use social linguistics to study the relationship between the society, the English society, and the language they spoke in that era. And we use social linguistics to study the French language in the same era. In other words, around the year 1066, we are gonna find some similarities between those languages, like the words I mentioned earlier that were incorporated from the Norman French to the English language. For example, army, court, faith, prison, etc. Yes, I think social linguistics is related to sociology, anthropology, and social psychology because all four of them study at somehow the human society. For example, sociology studies the evolution of human society. Anthropology studies also the human, but an important part if it is its culture, which is also something really important in social linguistics. And social psychology studies feelings, thoughts, opinions, beliefs, etc. in a specific social context. And social linguistics studies the relationship between society and the language spoken in that society. I think there are two properties of human language that could be addressed by social linguistics: cultural transmission and arbitrariness. In cultural transmission was established that we do not inherit the language of our parents. We acquire our language in a culture with other speakers and not from parental genes. That's why there are some differences in the slang used by, for example, a child and the way their parents express themselves. There are differences. And in the case of arbitrariness, humans are constantly creating new words and new expressions to describe new objects and situations. For example, the word selfie. It is somehow a new word that was included in the English language, and it is all because modern society, the actual society, and the use or the custom of taking self pictures. That's the origin of the word selfie. There are two concepts of language. One of them is language with a capital L, which refers to the system of communication humans use in general. And then we have a language with a normal L, and this refers to a system of communication used by a specific country or community. So I believe this second concept is where social linguistics is more suitable, because as I said earlier, social linguistics studies the relationship between the society, in this case the society of a particular country or community, and the language it is spoken there. From the definitions of language discussed in class, I think that the one I consider to be the most social linguistic is the one made by Hall in 1968. He defines language as the institution whereby humans communicate and interact with each other by means of habitually used oral, auditory, arbitrary symbols. I believe that in this definition, the key word or the key concept is human institution, because human institution is a part of society's culture. So there is culture involved and society involved in that definition. And as we said earlier, social linguistics studies the relationship between society and the language spoken in that society. Yes, I believe that all of these elements are related to the same phenomenon, because a sociolect is a social dialect, a variety of language that is strongly associated with one social group. For example, an example could be like the speech of the working class, for example, in the past. An idiolect is the personal dialect of an individual speaker. It's just the way someone speaks, the expression he or she uses, the phrases he or she uses, the idioms, because we can recognize a person by the way he or she speaks. Then we have diglossia. It is a situation where there is a high version or a special version of a language that is used in formal situation, and a low version or a more regular version used in an informal way. For example, the formal and informal English. And there is bilingualism, that is the ability to use or to have two languages. So all these elements are related to the same phenomenon, that is the way we humans speak.